Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the SuisseMecanica SM8 Chrono. SuisseMecanica is a small boutique watch brand in Switzerland, and one of the things which makes this watch interesting, and one of the reasons why it's expensive as it is that it is apparently 100% Swiss-made. Now, what does that mean exactly? There's a lot of Swiss-made watches out there. Why would this be more Swiss-made than another watch? Well, when you see a watch that says Swiss-made on the dial, what they're really talking about is the movement. And a certain percentage of the cost of the movement has to come from Switzerland. But it doesn't mean that every single part of a Swiss-made watch is Swiss. There are some notable exceptions out there, and at certain times, some of the small, more boutique brands like SuisseMecanica will go ahead and offer a 100% Swiss-made product. Watches like this are much more expensive because getting parts made from the case to the strap to the crystal, actually the strap I'm not sure where it's made, but the case and the movement and the dial and all that, it's all made in Switzerland. And getting those parts done there is a lot more expensive. So is this watch worth it? What does it do exactly? On a basic level, it looks like someone made a super modern angular version of the sort of like Panerai Luminor case. It's got a little bit of that cushion feel to it, similar style lugs. You got this protector over the crown. At its core, it does look like a modern version of like a Panerai diver, and that's true. And that's something that you could say about the brand. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is a definitely true thing. The case is in steel. It's 43 millimeters wide here, but then this adds a few more millimeters. So you can see on the wrist, it is a sizable watch. It is quite thick. It's water resistant to 200 meters. And the finishing on the case is really great. You can tell that this is made using very precision technology, very lovingly done, great modern lines to it. I happen to like the look of the case a lot. Unfortunately, the case is very sharp. It looks sharp, it is sharp, and there are certain angles which are sharp. Now, when you're wearing it, that isn't really an issue, but you have to understand that brushing up your finger against certain angles and things like that, it's going to be on the sharper side. A cool trick of the case here is this mechanism which protects the crown and the pushers, and it actually slides. So you can see you slide it up and down to reach the upper pusher and crown, as well as the lower crown. So these are actually has 3 crowns. Now the main crown right here is actually rather large. You can see it's a big wheel, and without moving it, you can twist it underneath here. However, again, it is kind of sharp, and manually winding the SM8 Chrono, it's not undoable, but it's not as comfortable because there are some sharp edges. And then when you want to adjust the time, you have to go ahead and pull it out like that, and then you can adjust the time. And again, this wheel, the edge of it is rather sharp, so doing this it's doable, but it's not the fanciest thing in the world. You clearly have a situation here where you have a little bit more design over functionality. So let's see what else the watch does. Let me just first say that the movement sort of started out its architecture as a 7750, but this movement is produced by Concepto in Switzerland. It has some cool features to it. So let's look at the dial. What do you see on the dial here? You see basically what looks to be a 2-pusher chronograph. A 2 sub-register chronograph. The chronograph is currently running right now. It is a mono-pusher chronograph. Now, I prefer a 2-pusher chronograph because you can start and stop and then reset with a different button. Here you have to do it with the same button, but it's fine. So it's running now. I've stopped it. I'm resetting it, and then I can start it again. And that's all done via this pusher here. But this is actually also a crown. And when you turn the crown, you see there's that ring moving in there? Well, that's the dual time zone ring, right? So that's another 12-hour scale. What you can do is you line that up with other hour markers, and you can change the time zone. So that'd be 1 ahead, 2 hours ahead, 3 hours ahead, and then you just use the hour and minute hand to sort of judge based upon that scale, so you can see the time in a different time zone. It's a simple but effective tactic when you want to track a second time zone. But on the outside of that is an internal rotating bezel. Then you would slide this up here, use this other crown, and now you can turn the internal rotating bezel. This is very cool, but again, this crown here is really not optimized for a lot of turning. So once you start turning that internal bezel, getting it all the way back to the original position, it's not terrible, but it doesn't make it as fun as possible if you want to play with this thing all the time. So in terms of functionality, you have the time. You have a monopusher chronograph that measures up to 30 minutes. You have the date. You have this ring for a second time zone, and then you have the internal rotating bezel. That's not bad in a 200 meter water resistant case. And again, the movement looks really great. It is a very nice movement. This is it's definitely a 7750 architecture, but it's definitely much nicer than your standard 7750 because it's made by Concepto, and it's really cool. So let's put the SM8 Chrono on the wrist. I like the alligator strap here. I like their custom little buckle that they've done. So there it is on the wrist. You can see there's a fair amount of glare, but again, look at the dome of that sapphire crystal. It's a very tall sapphire crystal there, so there's a lot going there. I just think it looks cool. If you like that kind of Panerai look, but want something that's potentially a little bit more futuristic, this is definitely a good way to go because it offers that. It's very unique. There's, I think, 2 or 3 versions of the SM8 Chrono. And they're all limited editions, so this is limited to 50 pieces. I believe the other ones are limited as well. So what you get is a cool, like I said, modern-looking, all Swiss mechanical watch with, you know, some unique elements as well as some familiar elements. Like, for example, I don't think this thing would be enormously difficult to service, which is a good thing. So it has kind of like a nice mixture of like standard watch componentry, but with some, you know, exclusivity or rarity that you sort of want in a piece like this. Price for the SuisseMecanica SM8 Chrono in this version is 16,600 Swiss francs. Not cheap at all. Could be more, I suppose. Definitely on the higher side, but again, for the enthusiast that wants something cool and something that not a lot of people are going to have, but is still a modern-looking sports watch, there really aren't that many options, and brands like SuisseMecanica are quite unique. You can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch soon. Thanks.